My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the Northern Armies, general of the Phoenix Legions, loyal servant of the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father of a murdered son, husband of a murdered wife, and I will have my revenge in this life or the next. This man never existed. It's all a construct, a legend distilled by Hollywood to tell us a story of revenge that we love. The truth is infinitely more brutal, more epic, and more important. Behind the ghost of Maximus hides a man of flesh and blood whose story is not about the revenge of a family, but about the survival of the known world. This is not a tale of one man against an emperor. It is the story of an empire against the apocalypse. And at the center of that storm was not a gladiator, but a general, a strategist, whose figure is Marcus Nonius Macrinus. He was the right-hand man of the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius, and his actions prevented Western civilization from collapsing 100 years ahead of time. Reality is much more terrifying than fiction. The year is 166 AD. The Roman Empire, though seemingly invincible, is a giant with feet of clay and is about to break apart. A devastating plague, the Antonine Plague, has wiped out millions, and entire cities have become graveyards. The imperial treasury is exhausted, emptied by internal corruption and distant wars. Across the Danube, the Marcomanni, Quadi, and Sarmatians have joined together in a confederation, ready to wipe Rome off the map. Their leader, Balamar, launches the largest invasion the empire has seen in centuries. They do not want to conquer, they want to annihilate. The border collapses for the first time in generations, and a barbarian army is on Italian soil. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, is forced to become what he hates most, a warlord. He needs a weapon. He needs his best friend. Marcus Nonius Macrinus is that man. His name does not resonate in popular culture, but his tomb, discovered by chance in 2008 near Rome, tells a story that eclipses any Hollywood script. Macrinus was not a Hispanic farmer, but an aristocrat born in Brescia, in northern Italy, into one of the richest and most influential families. He was not a man forged in vengeance, but in duty. His resume was that of the Roman elite. He was questor, praetor, consul, and crucially, governor of Pannonia. He knew the enemy, and his greatest weapon was not his sword, but his mind. Macrinus was a master of logistics, attrition warfare, and psychology. Macrinus inherited an army that was not a force, but an open and festering wound. The men, decimated by plague, were farmers and blacksmiths now waiting for death. The other generals proposed retreating and abandoning entire provinces, but Macrinus knew that showing weakness would only embolden the tribes. He declared, "We cannot defeat them in a single battle. They are too many, and our army is broken." He decided to bleed them dry through a ruthless and dishonorable scorched earth strategy, making hunger, cold, and fear their worst enemies. His first problem, however, was not across the river, but within his own ranks. Macrinus knew that words of glory were empty air to men who had forgotten the taste of decent food. His solution was not an inspiring speech, but an act of surgical cruelty. In front of thousands of silent legionnaires, Macrinus pointed to the officers and declared that cowardice is a plague whose only cure is eradication. He established that survival is the only ideology and merit the only currency. Then he became the quartermaster, doctor, and chief engineer, immersing himself in the most basic logistics. Because a man who sleeps on dry straw, eats warm bread, and drinks clean water is a man who can begin to believe that tomorrow is possible. Finally, he resorted to hatred, showing them the fate of their own families so that they would fight for their front door. The army, forged in shared fury, was immediately put to the test. The Asali outpost was about to be overrun by 10,000 Marcomanni. Macrinus' advisors argued with cowardly logic that sacrificing the 500 men was necessary to save the main army from an ambush. But Macrinus knew that letting the garrison die would mean a crisis of faith that would demoralize his men. His response was, We will sacrifice no one. His plan was calculated madness, a forced march of 80 kilometers in 36 hours with 3,000 elite men, falling upon the enemy's rear like a vengeful ghost. Macrinus marched on foot at the vanguard, sharing the same misery as his men, earning their unconditional faith. At Asali, the barbarians, drunk with their imminent victory, launched their final assault. Macrinus gave the order, "Sound the charge." The cavalry launched itself on the rear guard, using fire to sow panic and chaos. Doubt, more lethal than any sword, spread through the enemy ranks. In that moment of hesitation, Macrinus's legionaries advanced in perfect formation, creating an impregnable wall. It was the hammer and anvil tactic. The garrison, preparing to die, roared when they heard the Roman horns, sensing a sign of resurrection. The battle turned into a massacre, with Macrinus ordering the cavalry, "Stop harassing, start hunting." By dawn, the field was a slaughterhouse, and Roman losses were minimal. Macrinus had not avoided war, he had declared it, and Balamar saw in him the mind of a general who used speed and brutality. Balamar summoned the great horde, more than 200,000 warriors, a nation on the move that was coming to replace Roman civilization. Macrinus faced an impossible mathematical equation. His new strategy was a calculated cession of territory, ordering a general retreat and the abandonment of forts. He was sacrificing land to save his people, letting hunger, disease, and winter become his invisible legions. The barbarians laughed as they advanced, but the celebration turned to ashes. The food had been burned and the water contaminated. Macrinus attacked the cohesion of the horde, for a warrior could not ignore the cries of his hungry son. After nearly 2 months of retreat, Macrinus's scouts found a natural cage, a valley near Aqualia. The order rang out, "Halt, turn, dig." They were not fleeing, they were choosing where to fight. They built ditches and embankments to create a field of death. Balamar reminded his warriors of their hunger and ordered them to take food and revenge. Macrinus, for his part, reminded his men, "They are not soldiers, they are a mob. You are the legion." The trap was sprung. The first wave of the horde fell into the hidden ditches and sharpened stakes. Balamar watched as the strength of his army bled away against the Roman defenses. Macrinus closed the real trap. 2 Roman forces charged downhill against the horde's completely exposed flanks and rear. Balamar, the king who united the tribes, died at the foot of his nemesis's banner, pierced by the disciplined spears of the Praetorian Guard. The threat was destroyed, and Rome was safe. Macrinus was welcomed as a hero, the savior of the empire, and Marcus Aurelius showered him with honors and riches. His story was the brutal, inglorious triumph of logic over chaos. Hollywood gave us Maximus, a hero driven by revenge. But the protagonist of Gladiator, though fictional, is inspired by a combination of real characters. One of the most direct models was Marcus Nonius Macrinus, who participated in military campaigns against the Germans. However, Macrinus died in old age, with honors and wealth, as evidenced by his monumental tomb discovered in 2008. His life was not a personal tragedy, but one of institutional glory. The character of Maximus also combines elements of Tiberius Claudius Pompeianus, a loyal soldier and husband of Lucilla. Spartacus, for the story of the slave and gladiator. Cincinnatus, the peasant who put family before ambition. And Narcissus, the man who assassinated Commodus in real life. The legacy of Macrinus, the silent pillar of the empire, was immortalized in stone, and his life, though less cinematic, was more heroic in the Roman sense, fulfilling his duty to the end.